Hello, everybody. This is Beast on the ground for our fourth flight. This one here is an Arkansas Chat GPT fueled best flight video, and that's where we're at. We're hanging out here on the ground in Hot Springs, Arkansas. This flight should take us up for our most scenic flight in Arkansas, from Hot Springs up to Petit Jean State Park. About 20 minutes away, approximately 50 miles. We're in the beautiful, trusty Cessna 152 here on the ground. And let's go ahead and get this thing started. Power's in, airspeed's coming up. She's trimmed out pretty nice, so she should just kind of jump off the ground here. Got a nice sunrise going on over here to the east. And like I said, it should be approximately about a 20-minute flight. We'll be staying pretty low. There's no real need to get up and gain significant amounts of altitude on today's flight. While there will be some hills in the way, they're not particularly high. They're not like Colorado, so yeah, there's not a lot of need to gain a ton of altitude here, unless we have an engine failure, which I kind of doubt right now. So like I said, this is number 4 for us. Previous videos were Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and like I said, this is now Arkansas. This will finish up the A airfields, A states, I guess you could say, for the most scenic flights before moving on to California as our next one. Just kind of looking at Hot Springs here, it doesn't appear that the buildings and the homes, these aren't captured via photogrammetry. These are obviously just homes as set up from the AI interpretation of what the different buildings are, what they should look like. There is a point of interest that was just to the northeast of Hot Springs. It is listed as the Hot Spring Mountain Tower, so we're going to go ahead and fly over it. It's right there ahead of us. You can see it there just to our left, about 11 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and buzz that tower, and then we're going to turn a little bit further to the north. It looks like some of it just disappeared in the terrain. Ah, there it goes. It's back. All right. All right. Turning to the north now, kind of a little bit further. I'm went a little bit past north. But like I said, I think we'll climb up to about 2,000 feet. Hopefully this video comes through fairly stutter-free. Had recently redone my computer, got rid of a lot of bloat that I had sitting on one of the hard drives, trying to make more room for videos, because guess what? Videos are gigantic. So anyway, hopefully this one comes through pretty decent. I've kind of played with this video twice. I should have actually, I guess, just done some playing around in the local area to see if my recording was all working right. On one of them, the audio was off because I didn't turn one of them down. And on the other one, I had a bunch of stutters. So then I had to make a couple changes to the GPU profile with the hopes of gaining some frame per seconds in the capture. What's amazing is it looks really smooth in flight right now. So everything looks really smooth, really good, and very clear to me. But obviously, sometimes that doesn't quite capture. So yeah, Arkansas, pretty lovely. Sunrise over the mountains there is pretty cool. Block a little bit of that sun so we can better see it. But yeah, it looks pretty nice. I like it. I dig it. Something I love about this 152, I don't fly it very often, but I noticed it the other day when I jumped in it again. I was like, hey, this thing's got skylights, um, which are super cool. It really kind of takes me back. I used to fly a Cutlass, which if you are not in the know on what the Cutlass is, it's a 172 RG. We had those for our complex trainers. It had a 180 horsepower engine, a constant speed propeller, and a retractable gear. Really good looking airplane once you suck the gear up on it. But the Cutlass RG 172 was, like I said, it was our complex trainer. It's where we learned how to fly an airplane with a constant speed propeller and a retractable gear in before normally jumping into our twin engine training back in the day. And we did all of our training for our commercial procedures in that airplane. So anyway, really cool airplane, and one of the ones that we flew had skylights in it that looked just like these. Just kind of a neat little feature. Kind of makes, especially in something like a 152 where it's as narrow and small as it is, it gives you a lot more additional visibility. Kind of makes the airplane not feel quite as claustrophobic. Because I know when you get in a 152 and you're sitting next to another pilot, literally you feel your arms kind of rubbing against each other. It's very narrow. If you've ever flown a 172, it's smaller, significantly smaller. But yeah, so I have flown around Arkansas before, not in a small airplane. I flew, of course, to Little Rock, flew to Northwest Arkansas back when I was flying regional jets. For the airlines. I think Mina was one of them as well, Xena, Arkansas, and then we had Hot Springs. I think we got airplanes painted down there maybe. But yeah, I've never actually flown around this part of Arkansas. This route up to Petit Jean State Park takes us over, I think they called it the Flatlands Wilderness area, and then there was also a national game reserve or national game preserve that was up here. That's a little bit to the west of our current route, but for the most part, I mean, it was kind of over in this general area still. The wilderness area is basically kind of all of this stuff here up to the north, both of which are very scenic, very pretty. We obviously probably wouldn't be flying over them quite this low in a real life airplane, just for the sake of disturbing the wilderness and the environment and the birds and other animals that might be in the area. But in the sim, like I said, there's no reason not to fly at this altitude cruising around. At least we'll get to stay low enough to see something. But yeah, there's a really pretty part of Arkansas. Most of my flying that I had done in Arkansas was actually in the northern part of the state. Every once in a while we would do some cross-country flights that would take us down. One of my favorite airports ever to go to was down here in Arkansas. I was in a little place called Gaston's Resort. It's a little fishing resort. They have a grass strip, and it kind of is located down in a valley. Really cool little airport. Easily my favorite airport I've ever flown to in Arkansas. When I was instructing, I would take my students over there as a reward for them perfecting their soft field takeoff and landings. Once I felt really comfortable with them flying soft field landings, soft field takeoffs, we would go down to Gaston's and fly it. Normally, the student would fly in, we'd fly back out, let them come back around, do another landing, turn around, fly back out. Similar to, say, what would you call it? Similar to Aspen, where you spend your time going in and out of the airfield in one direction. One way in, one way out, and they're opposite ways. Gaston's was kind of in the same boat. You'd fly in, land to the west, and you would take off taking off back to the east, and then kind of fly and climb down the river valley, and then up and out. There was a set of power lines. I can remember that it caused some instructors some grief. They go across the valley, they're high, and if it was a warm day or you had a full airplane, you may not clear those power lines. So the idea of going underneath them was always a real possibility. But it was a really neat airport. I might do a flight into there soon after this, just for the sake of showing one of my favorites. But and it's captured fairly well in Flight Sim 2020. It'd be great in a Cub. Although we used to take, like I said, we took Skyhawks in there all the time. I even knew of one guy, I think they took, I don't think they took the Baron, maybe they took a Duchess in there. But those guys, I don't know, there was a bunch of cowboys during that time period of flight training. Some of that stuff got kind of stamped out of people as people either got older or the training programs matured. And they started writing down, hey, you need to fly it this way, do these things. Back when you had the freedom to kind of do what you wanted, there was a little bit more of a cowboy mentality to flight training. And I can't say that was a bad thing in moderation. So what I will say about this flight here, this is one of my first flights back into Flight Sim 2020. I just finished the 2024 Alpha earlier this week, which was an amazing time. What I will say about that is I wish we could port over the changing seasons into the Flight Sim 2020 world, which makes me really excited to make the change over to Flight Sim 2024. This flight here, with the trees and the terrain being what it is, would look amazing if we actually have fall weather. Right now it's October, middle October, and if it had been representative of what you actually see outside right now, we have a bunch of red leaves everywhere throughout the Midwest. This forest and everything else would have been a beautiful mix of reds and oranges, and you mix that in with that cool sunrise over there, and it would have been a beautiful flight. So I would say that that's going to be the real benefit when you move into Flight Sim 2024. Just the fact that all of these flights are going to become even more photogenic. And I know that they've actually explained that in Flight Sim 2024, because there's a photo mode for you capturing your airplane, you capturing the scenery, you capturing the sunrise or the sunset or the moonrise, etc. They still need to fix that atmosphere. I really hope that that's fixed. As of right now, the night atmosphere still looked like Flight Sim 2020, meaning there was no light pollution, and it just doesn't really exist. You've got to go so far into the country before you can see the Milky Way, before you get away. I've literally driven hours into the desert trying to get away from the light from different cities, and that's what you have to do if you want to get away, and that's just to catch a glimpse of it. Even in my home state of Missouri, I can drive away from the cities and be with, after about an hour of driving, a 30-minute flight, you can get far enough away, but normally there's enough ambient light, even in the cockpit, even with your instrumentation turned down incredibly low, that you're not going to get this absolutely insane, brilliant Milky Way galaxy sitting overhead. You just don't get that. That can be seen, but it's in some very unique circumstances, some very special times where you'll be able to actually see it. That's one thing that needs to get fixed. But the actual trees, the tree shadings, the transition of scenery when trees lose their leaves and their foliage, that's in there, and it looks absolutely stunning. The terrain data was much improved. You've got much better rock formations. So things that won't appear in this game and look really well will look better in Flight Sim 2024. And that's one of the things. So this flight, of course, is supposed to be beautiful. And you think about this. This is Arkansas. This is not a place that is known for having, at least not to me, for having, this amazing type of topography out here. That's really pretty. You can't deny it. Even in this version, this is really pretty. And, you can argue Flight Sim 2020, when it was created, was arguably the most ambitious flight sim endeavor that had ever occurred. And I know people will argue about X-Plane being better in a flight model sense, and I understand that. I've flown X-Plane before, and I get it. But in terms of actually capturing what it means to be out flying, this game is simply hands down amazing. And what's so interesting about that is the next iteration took what they had and made it better, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, what I was trying to say here, though, this flight, of course, being a very beautiful flight, that you've got some really cool details out here with the way the mountains are kind of laid out, and the terrain, the way it kind of flows across these valleys and ridges and hills and mountains. Um, but what won't translate very well is the way flight sim looks when we get towards Petit Jean State Park. I took a look online, did like a little Google search to try to see what to expect when we got up there, to see if it was actually be a really pretty area, and I think it would. I think in real life it probably is absolutely stunning. What is kind of lacking in the game, though, are the features. You know, you have waterfalls in real life. Those aren't going to show up very well in the game. They have to be created manually in order to show up, just because the photogrammetry doesn't capture them, and you don't get that same effect. You don't get the splashing water, etc. Some of the bridges are going to probably be covered up by foliage, so you're not going to see those. There is a really cool canyon there, which should show up pretty nicely, but you know, you're not going to get the same vibe at any of the lookout points that you do inside of, you know, flying it from a real airplane. But it's still pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fly up there, like I said, kind of cruise down a little valley and arrive at the airport. It should be pretty nice. And well, hop out will be done. And we'll be moving on to California. So if you're watching this and you've got another place that you think would be good to fly to in Arkansas, in addition to maybe Gaston's that I mentioned already, shoot it in the comments. Would love to try it out if there's any other recommendations out there, because, you know, hey, this is what the game's for. It's out there trying to explore, trying to see new things, and we'll be picking it up even further in about a month here with Flight Sim 2024. And some of these flights here that we do, like I said, at some point I'm going to end up stopping these inside of this sim, and we'll be picking it up simply in 2024. But a couple of them I might do a recap, you know, specifically the Alaska one. I will definitely do the Grand Canyon again. I had done the Grand Canyon, of course, with Arizona, my previous flight from Sedona up to the Grand Canyon South Rim Airport. And that was cool. That was a cool flight. And then, of course, I did some messing around, as you guys probably saw in that video, where I landed inside of the canyon and found a little rock to land on. I did that exact same thing in Flight Sim 2024, and I will say that the amount of fidelity that you get inside of the canyon is starkly different to what you have in 2020. You can tell it immediately at the edge of the South Rim. It just you have items in 2020 where the what I say here, the texture has been stretched over that elevation data, and what you end up with is something that's, I don't want to say it's lackluster, because it's not. It's just it does break the immersion. You can tell that it's not real. You can tell that it's, you know, a computer generated image of what should look like the Grand Canyon, and it's probably accurate down to a certain you know, a certain degree of resolution, but it doesn't have that fidelity that makes it really immersive. In 2020, or in 2024, that fidelity was there. You know, I did a landing, like I said, I recreated it, landed on the exact same spot inside of the canyon, and was kind of blown away. It was actually much more difficult to land on that spot, just because the terrain had more variation. It wasn't as flat as it is in 2020. But I landed the X-Cub up there just like I had landed the other one. And when you get out of the airplane in 2024, you have ambient noise. Whereas, you know, I kind of, after I shut down the X-Cub in the previous version, I was standing next to it, kind of looking at the sunset from the Grand Canyon, which was something super cool. And I was able to do it because of VR. You know, I can just step outside of the airplane, kind of like this, right? You know, suddenly you're outside looking at an airplane. But, you know, I got out, was standing up next to the airplane and looking around going, wow, this is pretty neat. But what was interesting about it is there's no sound. Apparently the sound is generated in this game by the propeller, the engine, and the wind moving along the fuselage. So when you're standing there in the middle of nothing, and I've got to load in again and have the airplane cold and dark on the ramp and stand outside of it with some wind just to see if you make sound, because I'm curious about that now. It was silent. So I'm standing in the Grand Canyon and it's just silent. There's no birds, there's no crickets, there's no wind, just silence. So it's like standing on the surface of the moon and all you can hear is you breathing. So that's kind of alien. It was kind of strange, kind of creepy almost. But yeah, so it was different. Like I said, doing it in 2024 with the fact of being able to get out of the airplane and them adding in ambient noises, hearing birds, hearing crickets, hearing wind noise, really made that environment feel alive by itself without an airplane running in the background. All right, so I believe our airfield is right over that way. We're going to kind of come up towards this little river valley here, make a right turn, and then we'll fly down the valley in towards the airport itself. Which I will say, after having, like I said, messed around in this area a little bit earlier, this might be on my list of one of my favorite airports. It's a cool little spot. It's also going to have me putting this into ForeFlight and seeing just how long this flight would take me in the 172. Not this flight, but the flight from my home airport down to here. Because this one, for an afternoon of hiking, this would be a fantastic little place to fly to. That's only a state away, so it's going to be on my list of cross-country flights to take in the Skyhawk, just so I can maybe get the kids out and go somewhere and utilize the airplane for more than just the $100 hamburger. It can be a $200 hike. All right, so there's the valley right there. That's kind of neat. We're going to kind of fly along this cliffside here. Let's get a little lower. We'll zip down this valley here as we head kind of towards the east. You can see some of the rock formations down there. That's the white area that you see right there. It's one of the lookout points. There's a parking lot right there. There's some more rocks on the southern edge of the valley itself. It looks like a visitor center or a maintenance facility of some sort right there in front of us too. But yeah, this once again, looking at that topography, that's something that probably would look very different in 2024. I'll be curious to see what it looks like. Because I can guarantee you that some of that cliff face could obviously be a little bit smoother. Once again, this looks fantastic inside of the Oculus. I'll be curious to see kind of what it looks like when we capture it. In game. See, it was like a visitor center or something directly underneath us there. You can see the parking lot. More cliff faces here. I don't know if there's a river down there or not. I wasn't able to see that. I mean, that would make sense. Another little parking lot right there, probably for either a trailhead or another vantage. Here's our airport. We'll fly over midfield and make right traffic. Land up here to the north. I think it's runway, it's 3 or 2, something similar to that. So you come out of I was going to say we had a golf course up there. Doesn't look like it. Just a big set of open swaths of green fields. Runway 3. right here on the lake. It's a really cool spot for a runway, though. Oh, so there's hangars down there. I think I'd been using that little turnaround down here. I guess maybe I'll try to land long. Alright, power's out, flaps are all the way down. I say land long, that'll be almost impossible. We're in a 150. Alright, on the ground. That's not a turnaround. We'll just cruise on down the runway, I guess. So that completes our little trip up to Petit Jean State Park here in the state of Arkansas. Like I said, we're going to be doing our next flight to somewhere in California. We'll let Chat GPT kind of determine where that's going to be. But if you guys have opinions or thoughts on that, please shoot it over. I'd be curious to hear what you're thinking. And, you know, what you guys think would be a good flight in the state of California. I've got some ideas. They might have some national parks involved. So I've got a thought as to what what Chat GPT might pick. But yeah, be kind of curious to see if we're on the same wavelength there. Otherwise, if you have something else for Arkansas, please shoot it into the comments. And I appreciate you guys watching. These are always kind of fun. Look forward to seeing you guys as we transition over to Flight Sim 2024 here in a month. And otherwise, this should pretty well conclude today's flight. Oh, we still got a moon over there. I guess it's that hunter's moon still going down. I was lining up with a tug, not you. I guess we'll make it happen. There we go. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Happy flying, happy simming.